On this episode, we chat with Aim Chareonphan, CEO of Hubba Thailand, about coworking and entrepreneurialism in Bangkok.
So, if you're sick of your cubicle and want to learn more about the co-working lifestyle, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001 as a foolish, inexperienced young punk, but have thankfully aged into a punky, overly experienced old fool.
And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 17 years ago. Fell in love with Thai people's penchant for letting nothing bother them for years until they explode in a murderous rage. And so I never left. All right, before we start, a huge thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. For more info on how you can become a patron, just head to the support page on bangkokpodcast.com. And one of the cool things our patrons get is an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we talk about current events in Thailand and whatever else comes into our minds. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and we chatted about how Songkran, the Thai New Year, is basically that movie, The Purge, for Thai culture. What parallels, if any, it has with any Western holidays, and what any of it has to do with Thailand being known as a place where women cut off their partner's penises. Yes, I did say that, and yes, we did talk about it on the bonus show. Become a patron, and you will get access to the bonus show.
That was a hell of a segue we did, but it made sense in the larger scheme of things.
Yeah, I think it fit.
Yeah. All right, well, before we start, I want to read out a message that listener Steven sent us, which I thought was really interesting. It's a really interesting, unusual message to get, and it's an interesting way to look at Thailand. And Steven says, I was born and raised in New York, Bronx, and Yonkers. You can't get more New York than that, right? I've never been, but Bronx and Yonkers sounds about as New York as you can get.
I agree. That sounds super New York.
Yeah, I wonder if he talks like this. I can't do a New York accent. Hey, I'm from New York. I can't do it. Sorry, Stephen. Doing a terrible accent. But anyway, Stephen says, I was born and raised in New York, but now live in Connecticut. I work in asphalt maintenance and sales and developed somewhat of a passion for it, right down to the ingredients and structure. In the USA, we have such horrible paving and structure on our roads. While viewing the paving around Bangkok and on the drive to Pattaya and Rayong, I was tickled over how incredible the roads are and how incredible the workmanship is. In the USA, it's done by uninterested, pot-smoking union employees, but I wanted to praise the highway system in Bangkok for not only having the roads, but the concrete strength and structure. No one pays attention to this unless they are smashing into potholes, ruts, and unsafe roads. Of course, I do not enjoy the winters or the damn salt and chemicals that are sprayed on the roads comparable to Thailand and Bangkok, but one needs to recognize the quality, hard work, real effort, and organization put into the system, plus the affordable tolls around the area and the country. So remind Thais of what they have and be thankful. And he says, P.S. The Easy Pass system in New York City is massively corrupted by adding an additional 2 to 3 fake tolls a week on active bridges and toll users. I'm not really sure what that means, but it sounds like he really does appreciate Thailand's road system, which is an interesting reminder that, yeah, you know, I think foreigners a lot of time like to sit back and complain, this is like this, why don't they do this, blah, blah, blah. But we often don't give credit where credit is due.
I agree. I love positive feedback about Thailand. It's very good, and we like to do that on the show. I have mentioned on the show, I was shocked when I went to Manila for the first time, and I saw how bad their roads are. They have a complete lack of public transportation. Thailand is just like light years ahead of Manila, and it really made me appreciate the BTS, the MRT, and also the highways.
Interesting. I've never been to Manila. You know what will back this up 100% and will make anyone appreciate the work that goes into Thai roads? Get a motorcycle or a car, I guess, and go on a long drive in northern Thailand, in Isan, or up in northwestern Thailand, up near Chiang Mai or Chiang Rai or something like that. The roads and scenery are beautiful, smooth, well paved, well organized, well signed. It's just a delight. It really is.
Well, okay, it's interesting that you brought that up. I read that a lot of roads in the Northeast, maybe not Chiang Rai, but I think more like Isan. I read a lot of those roads were built by the American military during the Vietnam War. That it's like the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers built a lot of Thai highways. I don't know if it's true. Anyone out there, any listeners, patrons, or general listeners, if any of you know if the United States helped build big chunks of the Thai highway system, I'd like to know. I'm not sure, but I have read that.
It wouldn't seem out of the realm of possibility, but they've definitely been kept up pretty well by Thai crews and Thai organizations. So
for sure,
yeah. Well, thanks for that, Stephen. That was cool. It's an interesting way to look at things, and yeah, we often forget that we actually have it pretty damn good here. So, yeah, thanks for writing in.
Agreed.
All right. Well, on this episode, we are psyched to be talking with Aim Chareonphan, CEO of Hubba Thailand. And there are many parts of Bangkok that are changing fast, and the city's work culture is one of them. A few years ago, Aim and some friends set out to create a co-working space that was more than just a co-working space. Hubba started out as a place where new entrepreneurs could work together to find success, and has grown into a complete ecosystem with programs to help entrepreneurs and startups reach their goals with multiple locations around Bangkok. I sat down with Aim to talk about what Bangkok's entrepreneurs are doing, the effect that the co-working lifestyle is having on Bangkok's young workforce, and how he and his team are working with huge companies to adjust their offerings to appeal more to a workforce that doesn't do things the same way their parents did. It was a really interesting conversation, and here I am talking to Aim Chareonphan. All right, well, I'm sitting down here in a very lovely little conference room in a very lovely little area of the On Nut neighborhood with Aim Chareonphan, who is the CEO and founder of Hubba Co-working Empire Spaces. What's the proper name of the company?
Just Hubba.
Just Hubba. Okay. Well, thank you, Aim, for coming on the show. I appreciate you making time. And I thought it would be interesting to talk to someone like yourself because Bangkok is changing fast, and it's becoming a much more cosmopolitan city, a much more modern city, and that includes elements of the workforce. It's got a young, dynamic population that wants the latest in everything. Part of that is place to work, and we're seeing the rise of the digital nomad and these people who are geographically free to work wherever they want to. And so this is Bangkok's answer, one of Bangkok's answers, to help these people get what they need. So can you tell us a little bit about Hubba? Who started it? Why did it start? When did it start? And what's the ultimate aim? No pun intended.
Thank you. So Hubba started 7 years ago. In June 2012, I opened doors to the first co-working space in Thailand. And by that, I mean real co-working, which is community, collaboration, and cooperation. Co-working space in and of itself is great desks and chairs, nice Wi-Fi, cold AC, and a lot of people working together. But many times we see in coffee shops, in libraries, and different third places that it's really just a place to work. But that's really not the definition of co-working space. And while we were trying to start as an entrepreneur before we even launched Hubba, we actually wanted to be app developers. Me and my co-founder, Charles, we saw the digital economy finally taking roots in Thailand. People trading their Blackberries for iPhones, people really excited about the prospect of 3G finally coming to Thailand.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and then we were excited ourselves. They were saying that, wow, all these people, all the folks that we know were spending so much time on their phones, but none of the apps, none of the tools that they were using were localized for Thai consumers. There's got to be a market. But while we got through that journey in 2011, we found out as two non-technical founders trying to launch an app with no idea, no connections to the industry, no clue what's going on. We found roadblocks after roadblocks. We found bad advice from potential mentors. We found dodgy investors who want to take over the company. We found ideas that if we were to give ourselves advice, coming now into the future, I would have gone back in time and said, don't do it. It's just a terrible idea. But while we were naive and young and full of energy, we wanted to know how people who were successful did it. So doing a bit of research in Google, and we figured that there was so much interest and demand for entrepreneurs to succeed. But when they're starting out, the chances and failure rates are astronomically high.
Yeah.
So what we've kind of connected to that is, so if everybody is keen to succeed but are failing, how are people actually getting themselves off the ground? So one way that entrepreneurs in the West or in Europe did it for 10, 20 years. So co-working spaces have been around forever. Entrepreneurs were actually going to meet like-minded people and basically exchanging notes, sharing their contacts, making friends, trying to figure out how to do what they want to do, with whom, and what is the best way, and where to do it, how to raise funding, or where to put the company. And those entrepreneurs and like-minded people usually congregate co-working spaces. They were drawn to the fact that a lot of people were working there already. It's a great social place and hub, and it's facilitated by operators who are passionate about bringing people together and seeing people do their best work, turning their dreams into reality, and actually becoming successful. So we decided before we launched that app, which is actually a terrible idea, we got down and said, okay, let's launch Hubba and actually build the first real community-powered co-working space in Thailand. It became a full-time passion, and it's been 7 years in the journey, and so much has changed in the ecosystem today.
It's funny, just before we started recording, you and I were talking about how we both sort of had our Venn diagrams of our lives have a little bit of an overlap, because we used to record season 1 of the podcast way back in the day in 2010 in a little place on Tonglaw called Third Place. I can't even remember. And it was almost a co-working space, but not quite, because co-working spaces didn't exist then. And you said that you also spent time at that same space. And so that maybe you knew what you wanted, but you couldn't quite get it there. So you said, like, that, I assume that sort of was part of the idea that eventually became, this is what a real co-working space should offer.
Yep. So we love Third Place. We were there for about 3 months. Staff are friendly. Brought a lot of fried chicken. I think what we discovered, though, is that as an entrepreneur, one of the best ways to really learn about a pain point and really find the right idea that you're passionate about is to scratch your own itch. I think anger and being pissed off or annoyed drives me many times to find a problem that I really want to solve, because it really bugs me. So I've spent countless hours in Starbucks, and back in the days, Starbucks didn't have free Wi-Fi. You had to buy 150 baht for 5 hours of Wi-Fi, and that wouldn't even last you for a day.
Yeah, I remember that.
And being there with all the back-breaking chairs and the not enough light and just the noise, so that didn't work out. We checked out a lot of service office options, and we realized that although on the website the entry price were quite affordable, once we start doing the math, it could be astronomical of the amount that we have to pay, and just getting somebody to print us something would cost a few hundred baht.
Right,
so
add-ons.
Pretty much. So all these other alternatives suck. And we figured that there's got to be a way for somebody who's starting out and really need more than just workspace. They need networks. They need people that can assist them to help grow their business in a space that's flexible enough for them to start out as a solo entrepreneur or a small team and scale as when they need extra space. They can get a larger office for a team of 10, 20, and maybe an entire floor for 100 people in the future.
Well, following on that idea, I mean, it's easy to say this is a co-working space. You come in, here's a chair, here's a desk, here's an outlet, and it's X baht per hour or whatever it is. But what else does Hubba provide to make it a true community?
So I think the evolution over the past 7 years is we've seen a massive glut of co-working space, hotel lobby, office space. So I think what really defines our approach and why we're different is that we care so much more and are interested in how our members work versus how many of them are physically shoved into per square meter as how many members we can put in, which is typically how co-working space operators usually view the business, which is a real estate business. You take a large space, you take a long lease, you try to subdivide those leases into small leases for single entrepreneurs, for small companies, big companies, and you get as many more people in the door as much as possible. I think that's where the market is headed, because real estate are a big investment. This is one of the hottest space in the industry. So much money and capital. All these billion-dollar co-working space chains are popping up. But why would Google for Startups, which is a program that supports different co-working space and tech hubs across the world, out of all the co-working spaces that they could have picked in Bangkok, they picked to partner with Hubba? It's because we aspire to a different idea, which is to really catalyze and support the innovation ecosystem and the entrepreneurs that work out of this place. We look to our members not as just another tenant, but as a potential entrepreneur, an idea that we like to help incubate and grow and support, so that one day you become a very successful entrepreneur or business, and that you'll be able to be a great asset to the community. You'll be an investor to many other entrepreneurs, a mentor to new startups, and give back and come and be this great alumni. All those resources, all those opportunities to connect, to help foster partnerships, investment, growth, are unique intellectual property and resources that Hubba can provide to help our members grow if and when they need it.
It reminds me of back in the day when you would buy a subscription to this magazine, and then it would say you also get subscription to 5 of these other magazines. Like it's not just a pay this and get this. It's you pay this and you also get entrance into this. It's like a membership to a club or a community or a family or something like that.
So definitely, this innovation powerhouse that we call Hubba is beyond co-working. I think what defines our mission now is how do we help the members and the entrepreneurs in our community to grow, hopefully succeed, but we can't guarantee success. So that's what Hubba stands for. And I think at an industry level, because workspace is becoming commoditized, so much inventory is out there and many, many more. So by 2030, it's expected from the industry research and JLL and Colliers that 10 to 15% of all office space in Thailand and Southeast Asia will be co-working.
Really? Wow, that's huge.
And right now, I think we're hovering in the plus or minus 1% of total office space supply. So a lot of it's going to be conversion of its existing workspace to co-working. Another 1 million square meters are going to be built out in Bangkok in the next 5 years. If not more, I think we're going to see a massive oversupply of workspace.
What do those numbers, as well as your experience, tell you about how Thais, as well as expats or foreigners who might be here, about how their concept of work is evolving and changing? Like, when our parents were growing up, it was you leave in the morning, you go to an office, you might like it, you might hate it, you come home, you have dinner, and that was it. It's coincidentally basically my life now. But, there's nothing wrong with that. I quite like my job. But it seems to me like this explosion of co-working spaces, and like you said, the the incredible addition of all this extra real estate. What does that say about how people are expecting to work these days?
What we found out firsthand is that Thailand has gone very much deep through the future of work and the evolution of how people view things. Because when we started 2012, we got the typical pushback. Entrepreneurship is hard. My mom was trying to find me a government job. We don't understand what you're working on.
Do this for a while, but if it doesn't work out, you can be an accountant or
Pretty
something
much,
like that.
yeah. And then no land, no loan. Banks aren't going to give you any funding. Angel investors and venture capitalists don't exist in Thailand. But I think enough people saw the future in the U.S., in Europe, in Japan, in Singapore, and they said that, these ideas work everywhere, so why not in Thailand? And a lot of people were coming back from studying abroad. A lot of people built businesses abroad and said, let's do this in Thailand. Thailand has all the right ingredients. Got talented workforce, very digital, global economy, second largest in Southeast Asia, and it's a great place to live. People just generally want to live here despite all the craziness and chaos. If it wasn't attractive, with all the exciting things happening in the politics and the weather and the environment, nobody would live here. People generally want to be in Thailand. So what we found that over the years, it took us, I think in the first 4 years of Hubba, almost all of our energy and effort was spent trying to tell people what is a startup, how to build a startup, what is a venture capitalist, how to raise funding, what is a co-working space. And at some point, what we started to realize is we had a very small megaphone. It took us all this time and effort to host people, to show people around. But once society started to get it, and people really saw and understood the global trends, we started to see the government come into support with Thailand 4.0, trying to encourage startup activity, investment, new co-working spaces and tech hub. And then we started seeing a corporate sector start to get involved, investing in corporate venture funds, accelerators, incubators, and co-working spaces. So what happened from that point onwards? So since 2015, we have seen an explosion of that space. We've worked with over 100 companies that are listed on the stock exchange of Thailand and some of the largest privately owned companies in the country. And what that has shown us is that there is a massive fear from those large companies. There's a massive fear from the government, which is Thailand is really in the middle income trap. We've really can't outcompete manufacturing, as our minimum wage is almost the highest in Southeast Asia. So we can't outcompete manufacturing with China. And then we can't cut down more forests to grow stuff.
There's not much left.
There's not much left already, and the farm productivity is quite low. Yeah. So we are definitely headed into the services and the creative economy, but we've been so behind in investing in STEM and STEAM education to the point that we're literally playing catch up. I think the percentage of jobs that will be eliminated by robotics and automation for Thailand is like close to 75%. Yeah. So I think the government gets it, even though most people don't feel it, but it's coming. Now the corporations usually come to Hubba for a few reasons. They have an established brand that's been here for hundreds of years. But they come to Hubba and ask us, why are these people leaving our companies? The best people that we send abroad for scholarships, the brightest minds are leaving to build their own startups. Why is no young people want to apply for a job, or they only stay for a few years? Why are our staff not able to come up with new ideas? And how do we grow the business for the next generation, where all of the best people in the office are in their 60s and don't really know what's going on in the next generation consumer's mindset? So we are seeing a massive disconnect with the largest companies in Thailand, with the fast changing and evolving consumers of the future.
Very
and
much
that is why they are coming to co-working spaces and our events and tech hubs and saying, I need to know what's going on. I need to understand what's being built. I need to understand the consumer of the future. I need to understand how people work and how my staff would like to work so that we could bring some of these great ideas to evolve in our business.
It's interesting you mentioned Thailand 4.0 because that's a government initiative, a government branded initiative. And I think you can't really blame people for being pretty skeptical when the government says something like that. I used to be a teacher, and I've seen what is expected of students and in classrooms in Thailand, which is basically sit down, shut up, and do what I tell you to do. But at the same time, they're saying, but think out of the box, think creatively, be creative, but don't challenge my authority. Don't say things that are not, that are not accepted. So I think there's a natural skepticism from people when they hear things like that. But it's interesting hearing you say that because it seems that there's also like a big push from the other side, from private industry and from people like yourself and the young people who might just make it work. I think when people hear the government say Thailand 4.0, they laugh and forget about it. But you seem to indicate that there's a huge groundswell of support for the same ideals from the completely opposite end of the spectrum from the government.
Yep, and I think why the government and large corporations want to come and talk to Hubba and learn from us is we're experimenting with the future of work ourselves. Not only are we hanging out with our members and seeing how they are trying to build remote teams, try out different new ideas and tools in their workspace, we're actually learning as we go along. So recently, I allowed my EA to executive assistant to move on to a new role at Hubba. And we were able to find virtual assistant for not just me, but the entire senior leadership of Hubba. In the past, I was the only person that had an EA. And that cost a fraction of the price. And we have 3 amazing staff working out in the Philippines supporting leadership team of 12 people.
Interesting.
And we're able to do that faster, better, cheaper. And they were having a great time because they can also do multiple jobs at the same time through using completely virtual online tools to coordinate our schedules,
right.
Google Calendars, Workplace. And in the past, the culture was always you have to have a stable job. You have to be with a reputable company. But our staff worked for some time, acquired skills, and have minds and passion of their own. They're inspired by the buzz and the energy of entrepreneurship here.
Yeah.
And up to a certain point, they're like, okay, I'm ready to strike it out on my own. So many of them have launched companies after Hubba, but also end up being contractors and work part-time or on a project basis for us. So the relationship of work is that we are now slowly becoming a decentralized remote company. As a lot of our staff come to work and they realize that the future of work is not how many hours you spend, where you work, but it's what do you achieve during work, right. And how is that fulfilling the company's goal, your personal goal, your career goals.
I think a lot of companies now are starting to shift to the here's what you need to do, here's when it needs to be done by. Other than that, I don't care. You can do it all in one day, or you can do it a little bit every day, whatever. But as long as you get the work done by the deadline, we don't really care how you work.
Yeah. So in Thailand, what we're starting to see is as the labor market becomes very tight for tech talent, a lot of people are being brought from overseas to come and work here. That competition for talent, large and small companies are forced to adapt, to respond to the labor market. And I think that's a great shift as companies are now thinking of, okay, rather than getting our own office, let's place our staff at Hubba, because then they'll have other coworkers in the community
Yeah.
and a beautiful workspace to take care of them.
Yeah. As we're wrapping up here, as I was waiting downstairs, I saw probably 8 or 10 people come and go. And I think probably half of them were foreigners, maybe 40% or something. What do you see as a lot of ties here, or your customers, a lot of foreigners as well?
We've generally had about half and half of our membership ratio of foreigners. One of the key trends, and I hope that we could further this with the next government administration, is digital nomadism is not just a fad. This is the future work, because literally anybody, not just expatriates and people from Western economies, but even Thais themselves, can pick up their laptop, head down to Chiang Mai or Bali, knock out some work, get paid, have a great quality of life, and sometimes actually be paid more than working back at home.
Right.
So in Bangkok and our hubs alone, we're seeing that people want to be here. I think the challenge is there's still a lot that we need to solve around working here legally, completely compliant with the visas that are issued. There is an opportunity for leadership in the digital nomad space. A lot of countries like Estonia and many digital nomad hubs are trying to figure out, how do we allow these entrepreneurs who have skill to come in and be a contributing force to the local ecosystem, and not just living there because it's cheap and the weather is nice.
Right, yeah.
There's stats out there by many guesstimates that in the next few decades, I think 25 years, we'll have 1 billion people that can call themselves a digital nomad.
Jeez. Yeah, well, I hope Thailand figures it out, because there's so much potential, and it's a very appealing place, but there's some archaic provisions and laws in place that make it really difficult.
So I'll look forward to this next administration, and we'll try our best to
Fingers crossed.
Get the word to the policymakers.
Right. So where can people find you in Bangkok? Where are your locations?
So right now we're in 4 locations and about to open the 5th one on late April, which is right now Hubba Ekamai is the original hacker house on Soi 4. We have 2 highly accessible locations on the SkyTrain, which is Discovery Hubba at Siam Discovery Shopping Mall and the Siam SkyTrain station, Hubba Silom on the Saladang SkyTrain station, and our headquarters and the largest space is on Hubbato on Nut, Soi 1/1. It's the one with the most amazing view and voted Best Interior Design of the Year in 2017.
That's where we are right now. It's pretty nice.
Exactly. And the next one is in Hubba Satorn, which is very close by to the Empire Tower.
So online it's
worldwideweb.hubbathailand.com.
Cool. And all your prices and details and all.
Everything is there. And if anybody on this podcast would like to know about the Thai startup scene and what's going on in the tech ecosystem, our website and media arm is worldwideweb.techsauce.co/en for the English edition.
Cool. Right on. We'll put a link in our show notes.
Thank you so much.
Well, Aim, thanks for coming on, man. It was really interesting. This is a beautiful space, and I'm glad to see it growing. And you've got some really good insights into the industry. Industry?
It is a real industry, not just a fad anymore.
That's right. Cool. All right. Well, I wish you continued success.
Likewise.
Right.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you.
You know, I don't know what you think about this, Greg, but I feel like I've largely missed workspace culture. Like, the bottom line is, when I was growing up, or when I was like when I was new to the workforce, we didn't have workspaces. This idea of kind of a rentable office space out there, we just didn't have it. And of course, I know what a workspace is. I have occasionally used them before, but I'm fascinated by workspace culture. I just feel like I'm too old. I missed it. I missed the whole workspace wave.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. And as we discussed in the conversation, I mean, Aim and I had sort of an overlap, whereas like season 1 of the podcast, Tony and I actually recorded it in this proto co-working space down on Tonglaw, and it wasn't quite there yet, and Aim spent some time there too, and this sort of gave him the idea, the genesis of the idea for like, hey, let's take this and kick it up a notch. So that's the only experience I have with it. But like Aim said, you know, if you and me were thinking what a co-working space is, it's like, oh, here's a space for your computer, there's an outlet to plug in, the Wi-Fi is free, the coffee machine's over there, and Bob's your uncle. But as Aim described, there's so much more to it than that. There's all these sort of ecosystems and support networks that are built to help people and form groups and communities. So it's actually a very complex, complicated organism that's constantly evolving. And I think it's a really cool insight into where things are heading.
But it's a new thing. It's like, I mean, it's basically a 10-year-old concept that has exploded in the last like 3 years.
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks a lot, Aim, for coming on. It was really nice to sit down with you and talk to you, and in your very cool office out on Nut there. And who knows, maybe one day, and when I'm an old man and I've had my fill of office life, I can bring my laptop to a co-working space and sit there and write the great Canadian novel. Is that even a thing?
Do people in Canada write novels?
I think so. Yeah, we got a couple writers. Yeah, man, Farley Mowat. You know Farley Mowat.
Yeah, whoever, never heard of who that is. But I think...
saying it out loud, that's the most Canadian name ever. Farley Mowat.
To be honest, I don't really know any Canadian writers, except I know that Neil Young, a great Canadian, his dad was a very successful writer.
Really?
Yeah, because I read a biography of Neil Young, and they were talking about how there was almost a rivalry between him and his father. His father was a fairly successful, I think, semi-famous writer, and then when his son became this huge star, like it was like a blow to his own ego. So he had like weird friction with his dad.
Oh, and don't forget the thespians, the great thespians that Canada produces. Everyone from William Shatner to
you got Shatner,
Jim Carrey.
Yeah, you got Jim Carrey. That's huge.
Well, anyway, thanks, Aim. That was great. And listeners, check out Hubba Thailand. It's a great spot. Gives you a lot of opportunities, a lot of flexibility for working and getting stuff done. So they're really cool. All right, let's get into some love, loathe, or leave. And that's where one of us surprises the other one with a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something that we love about living here, loathe about living here, or hate so much that it makes us want to leave forever. And this week, it is Ed's turn.
Okay, so, Greg, I've got a general concept, which I'm curious about your feedback on, but then also a very specific example. Okay. The general concept, I'm curious whether you love, loathe, or want to leave Thailand because of it, is the concept of like good luck charms among Thai people, in particular among businesses. And I'm thinking of the kind of weird cat, Chinese or Japanese cat that like waves its hand back and forth. Right. I think it's like a good luck thing, in particular for business people. I think it's like a money-making charm. But there are other things. It's like kind of like, it's like good luck amulets, and there's just kind of like, and they're also going to be business or money-making related. So what do you think about those things? And like, the cat thing, you know what I'm talking about.
So we're talking specifically about the cat here, or?
Well, I guess it's twofold. Like, what do you think about this preference or emphasis on good luck charms?
Interesting.
But also, in particular, that cat.
Interesting. Okay. The story I heard about this cat is that years and years and years and years ago, there was a shop owner whose shop was not doing business very well for some reason. And one day a cat came and sat outside her shop, and suddenly business improved greatly. So to honor this cat, she made a little statue of the cat. And the reason why it often has a statue of the paw moving back and forth is the Asian signal for come in, like a welcoming
okay.
thing. Okay, overall, I think this sort of reliance on things, I think it's quaint and hokey, but I don't think it hurts. It's funny you mention this because I have a blue glass sphere sitting on my desk at work. My wife made me put it there for feng shui.
Oh, really?
My wife doesn't listen to the show, and don't tell her, but I think it's ridiculous. But it's just a glass ball sitting on my desk. What do I care? I'll put it there. Whatever. Happy wife, happy life.
I like that. I think we've mentioned before that we need another L word that kind of means like tolerance or indifference. It's like love, loathe, leave, or like I don't care, or something like
love, loathe, leave, or like I don't know, like whatever.
So you're basically moderately indifferent to these good luck.
Moderately indifferent. Well, I'm sort of maybe leaning towards a quaint and harmless and potentially cute part of the culture.
So you're kind of charmed by these good luck charms.
Yeah,
in a way.
I mean, I'm not leaving. I don't loathe them, so I have to say love. I love. I mean, I'm in Asia. I live in Asia, so I love Asian culture. So this is part of the culture that I have to accept. So I love it. I think it's if it was more invasive or in your face than it is, I think I would probably loathe it. But as it is, just sits off to the side quietly, a little gold statue of a cat. It's not hurting anyone. Yeah, I love it.
Well, I did do a Google search, and as of course that makes me an expert. And according to Wikipedia, the maneki neko in Japanese, it literally means beckoning cat, is a common Japanese figurine, like a lucky charm, which is often believed to bring good luck to the owner. It is also sometimes incorrectly called the Chinese lucky cat because of its popularity among Chinese merchants. So apparently it is actually a Japanese good luck charm.
Ah, I see.
And I gotta say this, I find them really annoying.
Really?
I don't know why. I mean, I understand your point when you say like, yeah, it's kind of harmless and quaint and it's the local culture. I respect it. I completely understand everything you're saying, but that's just not how I feel. It's like, I see it.
Okay.
I totally get what you're saying, but I see them and I'm like, that's just kind of annoying. Like, it's just, I don't like it. It's like, in particular, that cat figure and the waving paw, there's just something, I don't know, it annoys me. Like, I don't like it. I don't like that damn cat. I don't like that cat.
I do not like it, Sam.
I'm less likely to go to a shop that has the waving cat paw thing.
Wow. All right, so you're a solid loathe on that.
I'm a solid loathe. I'm a loathe.
All right. Fair, man. That's cool. Interesting. That's a good one.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I'd like to give a special thanks to all of our lovely patrons. As you know, we don't run ads, and we don't have sponsors, so we really do appreciate the support we get from our patrons. If you want to learn more, just head to bangkokpodcast.com/support. And if you want to get in touch with us, it's easy. Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We're very polite. If you write, we will answer.
Yeah, and you can also find us on the Line chat app where we post each episode and carry on conversations with our listeners. You can also reach out to me directly on Twitter if you want, where I am BKK Greg. So thank you for listening, everyone. I will see you back here next week. All right. Well, before we start, I want to read out a message that. Let me start that again.